little more on quantitative tightening. But first, in order to understand quantitative tightening, you got to understand how we got here. And that was through quantitative easing in COVID years. So in 2020 and 2021, when the pandemic started, the feds needed to push interest rates down to try and keep the economy moving. So they started buying billions of dollars of U.S. treasuries and U.S. mortgage-backed securities like conventional loans, that kind of thing. In doing so, they created their own market, which allowed them to push interest rates down. The more they bought, the lower the rates went. And that's how rates got down to 2.5, 2.75, and so on. Now, what ended up happening, though, is the economy took off from those low rates and really started to go. Consumers were buying things, but we couldn't make anything because everyone was subdued due to the pandemic. So because of that, we had a supply and demand issue and causing inflation to skyrocket and prices to go through the roof. So what the feds did in response to the high inflation is they got to do the opposite of quantitative easing. They got to do quantitative tightening. So instead of buying mortgage-backed securities and treasuries to push rates down, they're now allowing their treasuries, when they come to maturity, to roll off the books. They're letting the market absorb that money. In order for the market to absorb it, the rates go up because they're not creating their own market anymore. That's why interest rates spiked so dramatically in 2022. I mean, we were at 3% at the beginning of 2022 and 5.5% with the first part of 2022 and by 6.5% by the end of 22. That's a huge spike in interest rates, mainly because the feds went from buying mortgage-backed securities and treasuries to letting them roll off their books. They're not buying them and they're letting them expire. And the Fed come out this week and talk about easing on quantitative tightening is basically, instead of allowing those mortgage-backed securities and treasuries to roll off their books, they're going to reinvest that money back into mortgage-backed securities and treasuries. So they're not trying to buy the market or create their own market, but they're going to stabilize the market by reinvesting that money in. And that is going to be super helpful for our rate market to stabilize and continue to go lower and lower as the Feds start to lower rates here later this year. I hope that helps. If you have more questions, I love talking about this stuff, so feel free to give me a call anytime.